Some stories do not end when the fighting stops. No matter how many years pass, no matter how often people say, "Let us move on," they keep coming back. They return in arguments, in protest, in quiet anger passed from parent to child. And the Nigerian Civil War is one of those stories. It officially ended in January 1970, but emotionally, it never really ended. To understand why, we must go back in time, not just to 1967, but to the very foundation Nigeria was built on. Nigeria did not begin as a shared dream. It began as a colonial decision. In 1914, the British joined the northern and southern protectorates into one country, not because the people asked for it, not because they shared a common identity, but because it was cheaper to administer, easier to tax, easier to control. Different cultures, different religions, different systems of leadership were forced into one structure. There was no referendum, no discussion, no consent, just a signature on paper, and from that moment, Nigeria existed. But unity did not. By the time Nigeria gained independence in 1960, the three largest ethnic groups had lived very different lives for centuries. The Igbo lived mostly in small independent communities. Decision-making was communal. Leadership was earned, not inherited. Wealth was respected when it came from hard work, and mobility was normal. People moved to where opportunity existed, and titles were achieved. Respect was negotiated. This created the people who were competitive, ambitious, and restless. Some people admired this, but others felt threatened by it. The North also had long-established emirates, strong Islamic tradition, political and religious authority intertwined. Obedience to leadership was a moral duty, and social order was valued above individual ambition. Power flowed from the top down. This created stability and discipline, but it discouraged challenge and rapid change. The Yoruba world stood somewhere in between. The kings, that is the Obas, ruled, but they do not rule alone. Councils of chiefs balance power. Education, arts, and philosophy were deeply valued. Religion was mixed, with Islam, Christianity, and traditional belief living side by side. Ambition was encouraged, but often channeled into culture, learning, and governance. These differences alone were actually not a problem. They could have coexisted, but the problem began when politics was built on them. At independence, Nigeria adopted a British style of parliamentary system, but the political parties were not built around ideas or policies. They were built around identity. The MPC represented northern interests. The NCNC represented eastern interest, and the AG represented western interest. Elections became ethnic headcounts. People voted not because of manifestos, but because of our people must be in power. Because the northern region was the largest, it always had the advantage during elections. Slowly, fear grew in the south. If we don't protect ourselves, we will be ruled forever. After independence, many Igbo people began to move across Nigeria. They went where opportunity existed. They opened shops, built businesses, joined the civil service, entered technical fields. In many cities, especially in the north. Igbo traders became landlords. Igbo clerks became supervisors. Igbo technicians became managers. To some locals, this looked like progress, but to others, it looked like invasion. Politicians too did not calm this tension. They used it. Fear was turned into rhetoric. Rhetoric was turned into resentment. And by the mid-1960s, anger was everywhere. Elections were rigged. Politicians lived lavishly. Ordinary people suffered and struggled. There was a sense that independence had only changed the color of those in power, not their behavior. Young military officers believed the politicians had faith, so they convinced themselves that only the army could save the country. Then, on January 15, 1966, the soldiers struck. Top political leaders were killed, such as the Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa, Northern Premier Ahmadu Bello, and Western Premier Samuel Akintola. They were all killed. Though the coup failed, but something could not be ignored. No major Eastern political leader was killed. That single fact changed history. Although the coup leaders said that their aim was national reform, perception took over. In the north, many believed that this was an Igbo plan because power eventually passed to Major General Johnson Agui Ironsi, who was an Igbo. Then, suspicion adding into certainty. Ironsi tried to fix Nigeria quickly. He abolished the federal system and introduced a unitary one. To him, it meant efficiency, but to the north, it meant domination. Fear turned into rage. Then, in July 1966, northern officers staged a counter coup and Ironsi was killed. Then, Yakubu Gowon became head of state. But the violence did not stop with the military. It spilled into the streets. Across the northern cities, Igbo civilians were attacked. In markets, in homes, on the streets, men, women, children. Some were killed by mobs, others by soldiers. Many were betrayed by soldiers and neighbors they trusted. Between 8,000 and 30,000 people died, and over 1 million fled eastward. They returned home carrying stories that Nigeria was not ready to hear. Meanwhile, in the east, Colonel Odumegu Ojukwu faced pressure. His people no longer trusted Nigeria. They wanted guarantee, safety, autonomy, fairness, and control over their future. So, in January 1967, the leaders of Nigeria met in Aburi, Ghana. They talked, they argued, they left believing different things. That meeting did not bring peace. It only delayed the inevitable. The ground was already soaked with fear, and war was no longer a question of if, but when. On the 30th of May 1967, Colonel Chukwuemeka Odumegu Ojukwu stood before the eastern region and made an announcement that would change millions of lives. He declared that the eastern region is an independent country, the Republic of Biafra. To the Nigerian federal government in Lagos, this was treason. But to many people in the east, it was protection. Celebrations broke out in some towns. Flags were raised. Hope filled the air, but beneath the excitement, there was fear, because everyone knew one thing: Nigeria would not allow Biafra to live peacefully. On the 6th of July 1967, Nigerian federal troops crossed into Biafran territory. The war had begun. At first, it did not feel like a full war. It felt like a police action because that was how the federal government described it. The belief in Lagos was simple. This will be over in just few weeks. But that belief was wrong. In the early stage, the Nigerian army was larger and better equipped, but it was poorly coordinated. Biafra, on the other hand, was smaller but highly motivated. Many Biafran soldiers were young men, students, traders, clerks, teenagers. Some had never even fired a gun before, but they believed that they were fighting for their survival. That belief alone made them dangerous. One of the most controversial moments of the war came just weeks after it began. In August 1967, Biafran forces crossed westward and invaded the Midwest region, the present-day Edo and Delta areas. They captured Benin City without much resistance. This shocked Nigeria. Suddenly, the war was no longer confined to the east. The Biafran army even advanced toward Lagos, reaching as far as Ore in Ondo State. For a brief moment, it looked like Nigeria itself might fall into chaos, but this move backfired badly. The invasion turned public opinion firmly against Biafra. Many Nigerians who were neutral before now say that Biafra was aggressive and they see them as aggressive. The federal government responded with full force, and within weeks, the Nigerian troops regrouped. Foreign military support increased. The Midwest was recaptured and Benin City fell back to the federal forces. The war then shifted gears. This was no longer a limited operation. It became a total war. From the 1967 into 1968, Nigerian forces launched coordinated attacks from multiple directions, from the north, from the west, from the south via the Niger Delta. Then key cities began to fall. Enugu, which was Biafra's capital, fell on October 1967. Then Calabar, Onitsha too after heavy fighting. Then Port Harcourt fell in May 1968. The capture of Port Harcourt was especially devastating because it cut Biafra off from the sea, and from that moment, Biafra was landlocked, and that changed everything. After Port Harcourt fell, the federal government imposed a complete blockade. No food, no medicine, no weapons, nothing went in. The intention was to force a quick surrender, but what followed was one of the worst humanitarian disasters of the 20th century. Food became scarce. Protein disappeared first, then salt, then hope. As the war dragged on, daily life collapsed. Schools closed. Hospitals ran out of supplies. Doctors had to perform surgeries without anesthesia. Women became traders, farmers, and caregivers. Children scavenged for food. Cassava leaves replaced vegetables. Palm kernels replaced protein. People ate animals like lizards, rats, and insects. Children developed swollen stomachs and thin lips, which is known as kwashiorkor. Parents watched as their children died slowly. This is the image the world remembers. Despite the blockade, some supplies got in though. At night, through risky flights, old airplanes landed on rough airstrips under darkness. Pilots flew without lights to avoid Nigerian jets. Some planes crashed and some pilots died. The food was never even enough, but it kept Biafra alive longer than expected. Nigeria had powerful allies: Britain, Soviet Union, Egypt. Biafra also had but limited support: France, Ivory Coast, Gabon, Tanzania and Zambia. Most countries actually chose Nigeria, not because Nigeria was right or wrong, but because territorial unity mattered more than humanitarian concerns. No African country wanted to encourage secession. Both sides fought with words as much as weapons. Biafra broadcast stories of genocide to the world, while Nigeria insisted it was preserving national unity. Inside Biafra, morale was kept alive with radio broadcasts, songs, posters, promises that victory was close. Many soldiers believed help was coming, but it never did. By late 1969, Biafra was exhausted. Territory had shrunk drastically. Malnutrition weakened both civilians and soldiers. Nigeria launched its final operation, Operation Tailwind. The federal troops advanced steadily. There was no stopping them. Town after town fell. Then, in January 1970, Ojukwu made a decision that remains controversial to this day. He left Biafra. He flew into exile in Ivory Coast. Some saw this as betrayal. Others saw it necessary to avoid capture and execution. Leadership passed to Philip Effiong. On the 15th of January 1970, Biafra surrendered. The war was over. No victory parades, no celebrations, just exhaustions. Then Gowon declared, "No victor, no vanquished." But for millions, the damage was already done. The war ended. The hunger did not. Homes were gone, businesses destroyed, families broken, many returned to nothing. The fighting stopped, but the wounds stayed. On the 15th of January 1970, the Nigerian Civil War officially ended. The radio announced it. The soldiers stopped shooting and the world moved on. But for the people who survived the war, life did not suddenly become normal. Yes, the war ended on paper, but in homes, villages and hearts, it continued. General Yakubu Gowon had addressed the nation, and he said 3 words that would become famous: "No victor, no vanquished." It was meant to calm the country. It was meant to promote healing, and it was meant to signal unity. But many people in the former Biafra did not feel those words in their daily lives, because peace on the radio is not the same as peace on the ground. As the fighting stopped, millions of displaced people began to return home. But what they found shocked them. Houses were destroyed, farms were overgrown, shops were looted, towns were silent. Some families returned to villages where no one was left alive. Others came back to find strangers living in their homes. There was no proper resettlement plan, and people rebuilt with their bare hands. One of the most painful post-war policies came quietly, because during the war, Nigeria had changed its currency. So, when Easterners returned to the banks with their old savings, they were told something shocking. No matter how much money you had before the war, you would only be given 20 pounds, which can be described as 20 naira. Whether you had 50 pounds, 500 pounds, or 5,000 pounds, everyone got the same amount. To many Igbo families, this felt like punishment. Businesses collapsed overnight. Middle-class families became poor instantly, and generational wealth disappeared. This single policy is still discussed in anger today. Another major wound was the abandoned property issue. In places like Port Harcourt and other parts of Rivers State, many Igbo families who fled during the war came back to find their houses taken over. They were told that this property has been abandoned. Some were offered small compensation, but many got nothing. Till today, this issue also has never been fully resolved. The federal government then launched the 3 R's policy: reconstruction, rehabilitation, and reconciliation. Roads were built, schools reopened, oil production resumed, but emotional healing was not addressed properly. There were no truthful commissions, no national apology, no open discussion of war crimes, and no public mourning. People were told to just forget and move on. But trauma does not just disappear because you try to ignore it. For many years, talking about the war became dangerous because parents had to stop telling their children what they saw. Survivors learned to keep quiet. Biafra became a forbidden word in public conversation. The country moved forward economically, but the past was only buried, not hid. After the war, Nigeria then entered the oil boom. Oil money flowed, but the regions that produced the oil, especially the Niger Delta, remained underdeveloped. Pollution destroyed farmlands and rivers. Then anger grew. New movements emerged. The war may have ended, but resentment changed form. In 1982, Ojukwu returned to Nigeria after being pardoned. Some welcomed him as a hero, while others blamed him for prolonging the war. He later joined politics, and his presence reminded Nigerians that the war was never truly settled. By the 1990s and 2000, a new generation had grown up. They actually did not fight the war. They did not starve, but they inherited the consequences. And they began to ask questions like, why are we still marginalized? Why does power feel distant? Why does unity feel forced? From these questions came new movements. In the 2010s, the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, emerged, led by Nnamdi Kanu. The group reopened conversations many thought were buried forever. The government responded with force: arrests, bans, clashes. The ghost of Biafra had returned, even louder than before. Biafra is not actually alone. In the Niger Delta, militancy grew, and in the southwest, Yoruba self-determination movement appeared. Across Nigeria, many people began to feel the same thing, that the structure of the country still carries colonial wounds. The Nigerian Civil War is not just history. It explains the distrust between regions, fear of secession, heavy military responses to dissent, and why unity is often enforced, not negotiated. It shaped Nigeria's politics, economy, and identity. Though the war ended in 1970, the reconciliation is still incomplete because no side truly won, but millions lost their lives, families, and future. And until Nigeria learns how to talk honestly about its past, the story will keep repeating itself in new forms. Now, when the editor tells this story, they end it with a warning. They say, a country that refuses to heal its old wounds will keep bleeding in new places. The Nigerian Civil War is not just about Biafra. It is about fear, power, pride, and survival. And until those are addressed, the war may be over, but the lesson is still waiting to be learned.